Hey, what's going on, guys? It's FPL Yusuf here, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be going over all the new rules for the upcoming FPL season ahead of us. We're going to be looking at chip strategy. We're going to be looking at how this affects the team we pick. Some decisions may have more of an impact on our squads than others, and a whole lot more. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for coming back for another video of mine. Before we get into this, if I could just ask if you wouldn't mind dropping a thumbs up and subscribing down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. But let's get straight into this video. So this season, we've got new rules coming to Fantasy Premier League, which I think a lot of us have probably been hoping for. There needs to be some sort of switch up, just something to make it a little bit different. I think last season kind of was the most that I've seen it be so repetitive, where the starting 11 was just pretty much 8 or 9 players who were just basically picked by everybody. One, because of the price. So I think that was a big thing looking at this coming season, was everyone going to be priced in a way where you can't afford to get everyone? But also, is there anything we can do to like sort of spice up the game chips wise, or just any other thing that we can put into the game to make it a little bit more fun and a little bit more harder as well? So yeah, we have got what we asked for, and we're going to start this video straight off with transfers, because that is the big one, at least from my point of view anyway. As you guys can see on screen, there's a new chip strategy, new transfer strategy, whatever you want to call it, where you can now hold up to 5 free transfers. Now, it could be game breaking and it could be groundbreaking based on how you are as an FPL manager. Now, I think the first thing I will say is to accumulate 5 weeks in a row where you wouldn't have to make a transfer, I think it would be very difficult. And I don't think you'll see it happen a lot. I don't think you'll see many people end up from game week 1. By the time they're at game week 6, they're going to have 5 free transfers. It just, in FPL, never works that simple. Even if you sort of plan ahead and, you bring players in for fixtures who may last you for a couple of weeks, it never always comes out like that. Someone gets injured, someone gets suspended, someone doesn't start. So there's always something which deters you from allowing to roll over the transfers. However, if you are a patient manager and you are somebody who, maybe does like to look long term and does like to plan in the future, I think this is a great addition for you. But not only that, not only can you hold up to 5, also now when you use a free hit chip or your wildcard chip, your transfers won't roll back to 0. So if you've already had one previously saved from the game week, it will still be there once these chips gone. And I think this, for me, more so than the 5 free transfers, is something that's been needed. I can't even begin to tell you how frustrating it has been in past seasons, where you've gone to play a free hit or you've gone to play a wild card, and literally the transfers that you've been saved beforehand have just completely gone and it's reset back to 0. So I think that, for me, is maybe the bigger news than the actual 5 free transfers. But like I said, if you are a manager who likes to think, long term, likes to plan ahead, I think holding 5 free transfers for you could be quite an ideal. Usually more often than not, we say a mini wild card is around 3 transfers. So having 5 free transfers, if you look at when you're wild carding throughout the season, more often than not, it's probably like sort of 5-6 players you're changing anyway. So to have that option there, if you are patient and you have got a squad which can save up, I think is it allows you to play FPL in a different way, which I think is definitely needed for the time being, at least anyway. Right, so point scoring. Let's come on to that. There hasn't really been too much to be changed on this. I think the most notable one is one that we probably will never even get to experience, and that is if you have a goalkeeper who scores a goal, it has gone from 6 points to now 10 points for the goal, which, to be honest with you, I think I've been crying out for this for like the last 7-8 years. I don't understood how a goalkeeper scoring is the same as a defender scoring. I remember a few seasons ago when Alisson got his goal. It's just not the same. Do you know what I mean? It's just not the same. So in a way, I'm glad this has happened. Will we experience it? Most probably not. I think it has to be the most freakish of circumstances. We've only ever seen a handful of them in the Premier League era in general. But yeah, that is one of the point increases, that a goalkeeper's goal will now be worth 10 points as opposed to 6. Also on the topic of goalkeepers, it has something to do with their bonus points. Now, I don't know how I feel about this one. So the bonus points before, for a keeper saving a penalty, you would have got 15 bonus points, which pretty much guarantees that if a goalkeeper saves a penalty in the game in seasons gone by, they would normally end up in bonus points. More often than not, 3 bonus points, but they would definitely end up in some, just because of that plus 15. That has now changed, and it's gone down to 9. So a little bit of a drop in the bonus points. Now, personally, I think if you've got a keeper who saves a penalty, naturally you're going to want those bonus points, because you'll want your keeper to get into the bonus point system. However, I remember Areola from last season there was one game that he played absolutely terrible, and he saved a penalty and somehow managed to scrape himself into bonus points, and that is because of that. So I think, in the overall grand scheme of things, I think it's probably a good thing for FPL, the fact that it's gone down to 9 bonus points. A little bit frustrating, like I said, if it's your keeper that actually saves the penalty. But I think overall, in general, I think it's probably the right decision and the right move from Fantasy Premier League on this one, just just because the fact is a keeper could be losing the game 4-5-0, save a penalty, and then all of a sudden he's managed to scrape himself into the bonus points. And I just don't know how that sits with me when you've got a team on the opposite side who've been so dominant and one of their players is going to lose out because of that. I don't really know how I feel about it. So yeah, for me personally, this is an addition that I welcome and one which I'm not going to kick up too much of a fuss around, to be honest with you. Okay, so more on the bonus points now. So if you are a goalkeeper or a defender, you are now going to lose bonus points every time you concede a goal, and you're going to be losing 4 bonus points per goal you concede. Now, last season there was a few defenders which maybe you could have a look at from elsewhere, from other teams, attacking fullbacks, them type of things. Now with this actual addition to it, I'm not sure if you want to be looking at that. I think a lot of us jumped on Alfie Doughty last season for Luton, despite them probably being the worst defence in the league. If this edition had been there last season, where you're going to lose 4 bonus points every time you concede a goal, I don't think a lot of people would actually go there. So I think that's something to watch out for. I think there's been a lot of talk around Leif Davis coming up from Ipswich Town. I think that's something to be cautious about, is that every time they concede, you're going to lose 4 BPS on their score. So I think that's just some food for thought there. A goal line clearance, that is now going to be worth +3 bonus points. Now again, this is one thing that, stats wise, is kind of just random. You can't, it's not like there's a player who's particularly good at goal line clearances. I think last year when I checked, top of the list was I think Dan Burn with 3 goal line clearances. So it shows you how often that happens. It's not very much. Three clearances in 38 games isn't really a lot. Obviously Dan Burn seems to be a little bit of a magnet, the fact that he's the most with 3. But I think for the most part, it's kind of one of them ones where if you've got a defender and they do that, you just got to look up and just say thank you, man, because it's pot luck at the end of the day on that. The same way kind of saving a penalty is kind of just luck. It's also with goal line clearance. If your player does it, great. If he doesn't, then you're not losing anything. You're not losing out on anything anyway, at least. Right, so the next bonus points on this list are for fouls won, and that's for players who have been fouled in the game. Now, I'm going to quickly just have a look at my notes, because I did make a list of the top 10. I found it out. So, in order, Bruno Guimaraes was first, Andre Ayew, Mohamed Kudus, James Maddison, John McGinn, Bukayo Saka, Lucas Paqueta, Anthony Gordon, Tahith Chong, and surprisingly, Ezri Konsa. Now, I'll put a picture of this on screen so you guys can see the top 10 of players who have been fouled the most. It's quite interesting, actually, because I think adding an extra bonus point to a player's score based on the fact that they're the most fouled, I think there's going to be some players on that list, Anthony Gordon, Bukayo Saka, Ezri Konsa, because the fact he's 4.5 million. There'll be some players on there who naturally you're just having your team anyway, which obviously does help and does favour you. However, there are some other players on there that I look at. For example, Mohamed Kudus. Maybe not everyone's going to go for him, but we all know what he can do. Bruno Guimaraes, again, probably not a player that naturally you would look towards, just because of the position he plays, but he does have these games where he does pick up goals, does pick up braces, and ends up with a mega haul. And I think if he is currently top of the list on most fouled, which is quite interesting actually, and I think it does give a different sort of perspective and maybe a different look at how we pick players, especially sort of like most of them are midfielders. I think it's something definitely to consider about. So yeah, for me personally, like I said, it's a nice stat to have. There's a few players on there that people already have in their team. There are another few players on there which maybe, some people might be umming and ahhing about, but that is a top 10 list for players who are most fouled. And every time they do get fouled, it'll be 1 extra bonus point to their overall score. Okay, so on to the final bonus points summary around this, and that is going to be for shots on target. And that is going to give you an extra 2 bonus points for every time a player has a shot on target. Now, again, forgive me, I'm going to look at my notes for quickly 10 seconds. In order of players who had the most shots on target last season, and it is very close. You guys will be able to see it on the screen. I'll put a little picture on there, but it's Haaland in at number 1, Salah, Foden, Watkins, Nunez, Palmer, Isak, Bruno Fernandes, Nicholas Jackson, and Julian Alvarez. Now, I think for a lot of those players, you probably would have been able to predict who they were. Most of them are forwards, most of them are strikers. And this does beg the question, Erling Haaland, a lot of people have been umming and ahhing, should they have him in his team, should they haven't? Maybe this is something else just to help justify that £50 million price tag, is that if he is going to end up with the most shots on target, he's going to be rewarded in some of those games with those extra bonus points. Mo Salah's on the list. I think a lot of people will look at. Cole Palmer's on the list. I think a lot of people will look at. Phil Foden as well. So Ollie Watkins, Isak. So these are all players that a lot of people are going to naturally have in their team anyway. I think the difficulty comes where if you have Erling Haaland, maybe you can't get any of the others. Whereas if you don't have Haaland, you may be able to get 2 or 3 of the others. So it's a tricky one, but I think it's just an extra little incentive for those type of players there. And a lot of them are premiums. So I think, yeah, it's going to make that choice of how to pick or who to pick, maybe that little bit more tougher. But yeah, that's the top 10 for most shots on target. We're going to get into the final part of this video, which is all around a new mystery chip. Okay, the final part of this video, the mystery chip. What is it? When are we going to see it? None of us have any idea. As of right now, all we know is that it's going to be available to play from January and will probably be announced sometime in December. What that chip is, I have no idea. If I had to hazard a guess, or maybe not a guess, maybe I should say have a hope on something, I would love to see All Out Attack return. For any of you guys out there who've been playing FPL for, I can't remember how many years ago now that chip was in there, but if you've been playing FPL for a long time like myself, then you'll remember there was one chip way back in the day that allowed you to have, it was called All Out Attack, and basically it just allowed you to have two defenders and you could start midfielders and attackers to your heart's content, and it was awesome. I don't think it's going to be anything like a limitless chip like we've seen from the Euro Fantasy. I think if it was going to be that, they probably would have just told us already. I don't see the real big secret about keeping that hush hush when we've already had the limitless chip played in Euro Fantasy. And for those of you who don't know, limitless is basically the same as a free hit, except it's unlimited budget, so you can make as many transfers as you want for that one game week. But it's also unlimited budget, so you could buy Saka, Salah, Palmer, Haaland, Foden. You could have all of them if you wanted to, which is a little bit overpowered. But if everyone gets the same chip, then I don't think it really matters. It all comes down to when you actually play that chip. But like I said, I think if it was going to be that, they probably would have said something by now and kept the secrecy to a minimum. So yeah, as far as that chip's concerned, none of us know anything other than the fact it's going to be available to play from January and will probably be announced somewhere, I assume around mid-December, sort of telling us what that chip entails, how's it going to work, and that sort of stuff. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Please jump in the comments and let me know what you think about some of these new rule changes. Like I said in the video, I think some of them will definitely help, and some of them are definitely more incentives to maybe look at elsewhere, other players. Others I'm not too sure about. We'll have to wait and see as time plays out. We'll see whether or not they're overpowered or whether they're underpowered. But yeah, like I said, feel free to drop a comment down below and let me know your thoughts on this whole new bonus point system, the new transfers. Let me know. I want to know, and I want to have a discussion with you guys in the comments. I will be back probably this week I'm actually planning on doing like a mini 3-part series. So I was going to compile a video of goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, and attackers all into one long video, but I thought, you know what, let me just break it up and basically go over all different type of options. So premiums in that category, maybe the mid-price players and the defensive players as well. So yeah, that's going to be coming over the next few days. I'll do goalkeepers and defenders together, one for midfielders and one for attackers. So yeah, just keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, like I said, if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop it a thumbs up and subscribe down below, and I'll catch you guys next time.